In this module, we've been going through monetization, where we started by talking about our growth system, that sustainable, repeatable, systematic growth engine that we're building from the ground up in this program. We talked about how growth is the output of three different inputs: retention, engagement, acquisition, and monetization. Now, as we dove into monetization, we wanted to make the point very clear at the beginning that monetization in our model is way more than the amount that we charge for our product. It's actually four different components: how you charge, when you charge, what you charge for, and the amount you charge. And these different components can be combined in different combinations, which introduces a different level of model friction. We introduced the monetization pyramid, which helps us think about how do we construct all of the different pieces around monetization. We started with monetization strategy, talking about how our model fits into the overall picture of our growth model. We talked through the market, product, channel, model framework, and we specifically dove into model channel fit, model product fit, and model market fit. Now, these different fits inform us based on the friction in our model. Does it enable or disable different acquisition, retention, and target audience strategies? Once we went through that, we moved on to the second layer of the monetization pyramid, measuring monetization. So how do we look and measure monetization no matter what our model and strategy looks like? We talked through a number of different variations of monetization cohorts. We looked at revenue creation, payback period, revenue retention, and our 1-year average revenue per paying user, and how all of these different metrics tells us a lot more about how our model is influencing the different facets of acquisition and retention. We then went on to the third layer of, once we have sort of those underlying strategic and measuring components done, how do we define and change different pieces of our model by using different levels of actual analysis? We walked through a simple 4-step process where we defined our value metric and our price structure, kind of the features or the things that we're charging for, as well as the price amount, and adding a layer of qualitative reasoning on at the end. We started by using this max diff survey to understand how users think about the relative value of features and metrics and the different things that we can charge for. We then asked a series of survey questions using the Van Westendorp's price sensitivity meter to understand what are the range of acceptable prices of how users think about our product and what we're packaging together as too expensive or not expensive enough. So in this last level of the monetization pyramid, we want to talk about how do we optimize our monetization experiment and what are the different levers we have to pull without actually changing the actual price. So the key question here is really, how do we convert more customers without changing the actual price? Because obviously we could convert more customers just by lowering the price or offering discounts in a very simple manner. To answer this question, I want to walk you through a little bit of a story first, which kind of tees up the framework that we'll be going through in the rest of this section. If we thought about kind of going to a mall or shopping somewhere, let's say we were walking in the mall, going past the Gucci store. Now from the outside, we've got this amazing display of amazing products, nice and brightly lit with gold coloring, looks very luxury, right? Draws us into the store. Let's say we walk then into the store. We get introduced and offered a glass of water from a very nice attendant. We then start browsing around the store. We go around to the different items. We pick them up. We start to feel them. We're looking at all of the different features. We see how quality the leather is. And finally, once we kind of open the bag or the item and we dig through, kind of tucked into the inside pocket, is the actual price tag. So what's going on here? Well, if we thought about this customer journey and kind of the fuel or the motivation the user has to purchase that item and how these different touch points affect it, we started off by seeing this amazing display from the outside. So it fuels our fuel tank a little bit. We then go and walk in and we get this greeting with a glass of water and feel very welcomed, this very luxury feeling. Our fuel tank goes up even a little bit more. We then see the bag up close. We touch it and feel it, which increases our fuel tank even more. And then finally, after all that, once we get into the pocket, we see the price tag of $2,500. Now, imagine the reverse of this, right? Let's say we were walking by that store and there was a sign out front that said, handbags from $2,500. What would be happening here? Well, we'd get a little bit of our fuel tank filled up, but then we see that price as a blocking factor. So the different components that we're trying to show here, that we're trying to play with, is that optimizing your monetization experience comes down to this very simple framework. Perceived value greater than perceived price plus friction. In the Gucci example, they are increasing the perceived value of the products before you actually get to the price and the friction involved to purchase the items. So each one of these presents different levers we can move in order to increase conversion. The first we're going to go through is talking about perceived value and how there's 3 different components: accrued, functional, and emotional value. We'll then talk about perceived price and some of the different strategies and examples we've seen out there to decrease perceived price. And finally, we'll talk about friction and how to overcome the physical and cognitive friction involved in monetizing a user. At the end, we'll wrap it all up by talking about the monetization path and what order of operations you should be looking at dealing with these things. In the next lesson, we're going to dive deeper into that first component, perceived value.